Kay bought 4.5 pounds of gummy worms. If each pound cost $1.45, how much did Kay pay for the gummy worms? So the first thing we're going to ask ourselves is, what operation are we going to do? So in order to do that, I'm going to ask myself, am I looking for a total or am I given a total? We are looking for a total. So let me draw this out for you guys. And you don't have to do this, so I'm going to put this in red to remind you guys that you don't have to do it. Don't write this. So we have 4.5. I can only draw 4. So I'm going to draw 4. These are our pounds of gummy worms. Each pound costs $1.45. So if you notice, that $1.45 is happening over and over and over again. So what operation are we going to do? We're going to multiply. So we're going to take 4.5 and multiply it times 1.45. Remember, we put the number with more digits on top. 1.45 has more digits. We'll multiply it times 4.5. We don't have to line up decimals when we multiply or divide. We just have to line them up when we add or subtract. 5 times 5 gives us 25, so I write down a 5, carry my 2. 5 times 4 gives us 20, so I write down a 0 and carry, 5 times 4 gives us 20, and then 20 plus 2 gives us 22. So we write down a 2 and then carry our 2. And then we have 1 times 5. 1 times 5 is 5, and then add the 2 right here, which gives us 7. We're on our next row now, so what do we add when we get to our next row? A 0, and then I cross out my other numbers. And then we have, once again, 5 times 4. What's 5 times 4? 5 times 4 is 20, so I write down a 0, carry my 2. Then we have 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, plus the 2 gives us 18. So we write down an 8 and carry our 1, and then we do 1 times 4. 1 times 4 is 4, plus the 1 right here gives us 5. Add it all together, we have 5 plus 0, which is 5, 2 plus 0, which is 2, 7 plus 8, which is 15, so we write down a 5 and carry our 1, then 1 plus 5, which is 6. Then, how many decimal places are we going to have? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And our decimal will go right there. Now remember, this is money. In money, you can only have 2 decimal places. Right now I have 3. So I need to take this 5 and use it to round the 2, sorry. So 5 or more, we raise the score. So since this is 5, that's 5 or more. So we're going to raise this 2 up to a 3. So that's $6.53. All right, we have negative 1/2 times 2/5 plus 2.5. So when we do this, we start with order of operations. We do GEMDAS or PEMDAS, whichever one you prefer. G stands for grouping, P stands for parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is what's inside my parentheses, which is 2/5 plus 2.5. So that's going to be our G. So we're going to check that off, that we're going to do that first. Now, we have to take 2/5 and we need to turn that into a decimal. So I'm going to divide 2 divided by 5. 5 does not go into 2, so I add a decimal and a 0. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtracting that gives us 0. So this is 0.4. So I have 0.4 plus 2.5. I actually think that's supposed to go in a different spot. So we have 0.4 plus 2.5 right here instead. So I'm going to add those. Remember, when we add or subtract, we do have to line them up. There they are lined up. My decimals are on top of each other. 5 plus 4 is 9. Drop down your decimal. That gives us 2.9. So we have 1/2 times 2.9. Now, we cannot have a fraction times a decimal, so I have to turn my 1/2 into a decimal. So I would do that by doing 1 divided by 2. 2 doesn't go into 1, so I add a decimal and a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Bring that decimal straight up, and that gives you 0.5. So now we have negative 0.5 times 2.9. So we would do 2.9 times 5. 9 times 5 gives us 45, so we write down a 5 and carry our 4. Then we have 2 times 5, which gives us 10, plus the 4 gives us 14. And then we have 1 decimal place, so that's 14.5. We have a negative times a positive. A negative times a positive is a negative. All right, for the next one, we have 20 minus 2.4 plus 0.75. So remember, the first thing we do is the grouping. So we're going to group, our grouping is in our parentheses, so we're going to do 2.4 plus 0.75. Now, right now, those are the exact same decimals, so we can just put them together. We have 2.4 plus, now remember when I add, I have to line up my decimals. So we have 0.75, the 0 comes before the decimal, the 75 comes after. I got to add a 0 to go with this. 0 plus 5 is 0. 4 plus 7 is 11, so I write down a 1 and carry my 1, and then 1 plus 2 is 3. Drop that decimal straight down. I'm not going to take with me that 0, so I'm just going to say 3.1. So that was grouping. The E stands for exponents. We don't have any exponents. Remember, exponents are your numbers that float up in the sky like that. So we're good there. The next thing we're going to look for is multiplication. Remember, multiplication can be symbolized by a dot. It can be symbolized by the X, or it can be symbolized by parentheses next to a number. In this case, I have parentheses right next to a number, so we're going to multiply this. We're going to do 3.1 times 2. Remember, I don't have to line up decimals, so I have 1 times 2, which is 2, and then 3 times 2, which is 6, and then I have 1 decimal place. So it's going to give us 6.2. So now I have 20 minus 6.2. We don't have any division, we don't have any addition, and so we're on subtraction. So we do 20 minus 6.2. Well, when we look at 6.2, 6.2 has a decimal, and 20 does not. So I'm going to put a decimal on the end of my 20. And then I have 6.2. That means I got to add a 0 right there. This 0 right here will turn into a 10. And then this 0 will turn into a 9. So we'll have 10 minus 2, which gives us 8. 9 minus 6, which gives us 3. And then 2 minus nothing, which gives us... That does not make any sense. We had to borrow from this 2, and that turns into a 1. Sorry. When we turned that 10, this into a 10, this into a 9, we ended up having to borrow from the 1. So that's 13.8. We keep the sign of our bigger number. Which one's bigger, 20 or 6? 20 is bigger, so this is going to be a positive. All right, now we have 2 3/4 divided by 3 3/4 minus 3.5. So we start with our grouping. So what is in our grouping? 3 3/4 minus 3.5. We cannot do a fraction minus a decimal, so we're going to turn our fraction into a decimal. So I would do 3 divided by 4. 4 goes into 3, no times. So we have to add a decimal and a 0. 4 goes into 30, 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract, and that gives us 2. Add another 0, drop it down. 4 goes into 20, 5 times. So this is going to be 3.75 minus 3.5. When we add or subtract decimals, we do have to line them up. So I have 3.75 minus 3.5. 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. Drop down your decimal. 3 minus 3 is 0. So this right here is going to be 0.25. Then I have 2 3/4. Well, I can't do a fraction divided by a decimal. By the way, we don't have any exponents. There's no multiplication because there's no number on the outside of this over here. And so the next step is division. We have to turn 3/4 into a decimal. Luckily, we already did that. We know that 3/4 as a decimal is 0.75. So I have 2.75 divided by 0.25. 2.75 is going to go on the inside. 25 is going to go on the outside. We're going to move, this is 0.25. We're going to move this decimal over twice. We're going to move this decimal over twice. So now I have 25 going into 275. 25 does not go into 2, but it does go into 27 one time. 1 times 25 is 25. Subtract, and that gives us 2. Drop down your 5. 25 goes into 25 one time, so that gives us 11. We're going to skip this one. We're going to do this last one down here at the bottom. Complete the sentence by selecting the correct answers. So the number negative 30 over 4 is blank because blank. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify 30 over 4. I'm just going to divide it. 30 divided by 4. 4 doesn't go into 3, but it does go into 30. 7 times 4 is 28, so we subtract and that gives us 2. Add a decimal and a 0. Drop it down, that gives us 7.5. Negative 7.5. So, is negative 7.5 an integer, a rational number, or a whole number? This has a decimal. Remember, if your final answer has a decimal or a fraction, it's a rational number. Because it's a fraction or a decimal.